Hello everyone. Today's discussion here is going to be on water. Water is very important to all of us, and not only is it used in agriculture and in other factories, but it is needed by us because 60% of our bodies are is water. Um, We earlier, I think it was in Unit 1, when we looked at the hydrologic cycle and how water comes down as rain, and it washes down through streams to the ocean, and then through evaporation goes up. That's the cycle. So not every place gets the same amount of rain. This here diagram is showing the average rain that different countries, different areas of the countries, how much rain they get. And you'll see that Florida here is light, looks like blue and green, so we're in the 40 to 80 inch range, whereas some of these other places get the dark blue, which they get more than 80 inches of rain a year. And then some areas get less than 10 inches every year. So water is one of those resources that we really have to conserve. Notice here in this diagram that most of the water on Earth is in the ocean, and the little bit of fresh water we have then gets divided out here, where most of the fresh water we have is bound up in ice and snow. And then the fresh surface water, our lakes and so these kinds of things that are accessible to us, it makes up just a tiny portion of that. So we get very little bit of water that is accessible. So we really need to be careful on how we treat that water. Just a picture of a glacier, and here's how water moves through the ground and becomes the zone of saturation, which is the groundwater. And here is the zone of saturation, which then permeates this aquiclude, which is just another densely packed clay-like material here, that or it could be limestone. For us in Florida, we do have an aquifer in Florida. It runs down the center of the state. But we do have to have all of these lakes and rivers and wetlands so that this zone of saturation can eventually, and this takes hundreds of years to permeate and recharge the aquifer, so that we maintain this abundance of water we have here in Florida. A lot of countries don't get much water, and there is a fight for water over in some countries. Even in our own country, we have limited resources for water, and some of the cities and the farmers are literally fighting over who gets water and who doesn't. So it is a major dilemma in some cities here in America. Agriculture is the big withdrawal of water to water their crops, to feed their cattle, etc. We will be having some freshwater shortages because of our lack of attention to conserving water. We can start now. Every one of us can conserve water. We don't have to have that leaky faucet or that or use our sprinklers when it's raining. We can all be more diligent in conserving water. A lot of people have limited access to fresh drinking water. They're going miles to fill up their jugs. This guy's lucky he's got a little donkey and a cart. A lot of people carry water on their heads or on some sort of a shoulder harness, and they balance that, and for miles they bring water. The children carry some too. It's horrible. We are depleting our groundwater supplies. There is not going to be enough groundwater to recharge the aquifers. And the aquifer, is our main source, so we need to concentrate on water conservation. Different types of projects that redistribute water and force people and animals to and they force people and other animals to move from the areas because those areas are not going to become a lake. For instance, this area here probably looked somewhat like this. It was just like a canal or a stream or river going through here. And then look back here, the water got all backed up and started flooding everything. And so it's just so that people can have enough water up here. And then down here and farther out, the people are having a hard time. Here's another example of how water has been diverted and what has happened to this sea. Used to be like this. Then it was like this in 97, and look, the depletion. Basically, it's drying up. Now it's this big, or basically, should I say, this small. Would you fight for water? Well, there are citizens in countries fighting over water, yes. We do have our water management, and they do try to maintain our wetlands and make sure that they have enough. But there are some water management personnel that are not very conservative, and they just will grant developers and so forth water rights when there really isn't enough water to give. And who suffers? Nature suffers. So I believe a water management personnel should be voted in by the people, because then the people could vote for someone who might be more environmentally conscious than someone that the governor appoints. Just a thought. Another thing that would help to save water would be to plant native plants. That way you don't have to water these plants. We can save water by not watering. Around here in Florida, we have all sorts of developments that put in St. Augustine grass, and these grasses require a lot of water, and we really don't need to have that. We can have Bahia grass, which grows perfectly in Florida. It gives you a green lawn, and it doesn't require watering. The big waster of water is our toilet. A lot of people allow their toilet to run on and run on. A lot of people don't have low gallon usage, low water volume usage of toilets. They have those 2 or 3 gallon per flush toilets. So we could really stop, and think a minute about how much water it takes to flush the toilet every time you maybe urinate. Here's some things you can do. We could reduce the use of our water in many ways, and this just giving you some ideas of that. I'm going to move ahead here. Here's some sources of pollution to our water. Here's an idea where the chemicals are coming down into the water, and it creates lack of oxygen because it starts to darken the water, and the photosynthetic organisms can't get the sunlight, and then basically it kills the lake. Eutrophication is just an overabundance of minerals in that water, nutrients and minerals in the water, and causes algal blooms. Just pollutants cause, the fish to not be good to eat. Is bottled water safer? Well, not really. There really aren't any what do you call them, guidelines to what goes in water, and checks and balances like there are in municipal water. And frankly, we really don't know if these plastic bottles are leaching chemicals into the water. So besides, so many plastic bottles, we talked about that earlier, are bad for the environment. So we should really stop all of this bottled water manufacturing. Here's just a picture of sediment going into the water. Water quality today. Impaired rivers, problems, pollution, kids playing in a sewer, an open sewer. This goes on all over the world. All of this filters down into our ocean, so it's just not a very good thing. Contamination. It's groundwater is hard to clean up once it's been contaminated. We see of all the different ways that water can be contaminated. Surface runoff from industrial waste, leaking petroleum gas tanks underneath the ground, someone putting their waste down into the injection well and just putting it down into our aquifer, chemicals from pesticide spraying getting down into the runoff and getting down into our water, leaking septic tank goes right out into the groundwater and also contaminates people's wells. So all sorts of things can pollute groundwater. Few things control the pollutants in the ocean, and it's a sad thing that oil spills and fishing nets are left to let animals and other organisms get caught in them and suffer the consequences. We do need to control our pollutants, and we need different types of waste treatment. There are some new things that we're doing to treat our waste. A lot of waste management is putting in these wastewater wetlands where they are taking a big area and flooding it with the wastewater, and then they're letting the plants suck out the nutrients. And not only is this good for the plants, it's good for wildlife. We see a lot of birds coming in and using these as their rookeries and reproduction areas. So these are really, we have two here in Palm Beach County. We have Green Cay, that's out there in southwest Boynton, and we have Wakota-Hatchie Wetlands. That's also in southwest Boynton Beach, Florida here.